Our keynote speaker tonight is U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer Jeremy T. Crandall. He is a Chief Cryptologic Technician and currently serves as Chief of Security on the USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72. It's a pleasure to have him here. Chief Crandall.
Well, good evening, everybody. A few moments ago, you might have noticed that I gave an extra salute during the Air Force song. That salute is for my brother Ryan. He's important to me, and he's the reason why I joined the service. So that's why I gave an extra salute. So can we give a hand for my older brother Ryan? Now that we got that out of the way, so good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeremy Crandall. I serve as a Chief Petty Officer on board the greatest warship in the United States Navy, the USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72. Wonderful ship. Proud to serve on it, and being from the land of Lincoln, it brings extra significance to me. I would like to first thank VietNow for asking me to speak this evening. Their professionalism and dedication to the well-being of veterans throughout the United States is something that I surely seek to emulate as I move forward in my career. So big hand to VietNow. I'm extremely honored and humbled to be here this evening, speaking in front of so many people that I hold in such high regard. Being a Loves Park native and speaking in my hometown only sweetens an experience that I'm sure I'll never forget. A little over 13 years ago, I stood on the field of honor and was welcomed home following my detention into China. I remember the love, the support, the well wishes that I received from this great community. That ceremony had a profound impact on my life. Each and every one of you from this community have made a profound impact on my life, and that love and support at our homecoming helped shape me into the man that stands before you today. I will never be able to repay you all fully, but I hope my words here tonight can honor the men and women who so nobly served in the Vietnam War. In my opinion, these Vietnam veterans are our country's greatest generation. You would be hard-pressed to find another generation that served their country despite facing the type of adversity that those of us who wear the uniform today will never fully understand. When they returned home, many were spat on and never received the proper recognition from the public that they so greatly deserved. They faced this mistreatment head-on and moved forward. They looked out for others, and they pushed forward and asked for fair treatment for all their brothers and sisters in arms. These brave men and women continued to serve long after the course of their war is ended. Of many veterans groups that exist today, veterans of the Vietnam War are second to none when it comes to honoring our prisoners of war and those who are still missing in action. They refuse to allow anyone to be left behind, and their efforts have led to the resolution of countless cases. Without our Vietnam veterans, some families would be left without closure on the whereabouts of their loved ones. And I think we all know that sometimes closure is what we need, and that's what they help provide. This dedication does not end with just Vietnam POWs and MIAs. They continue to be advocates for other conflicts, to which I say thank you. Your sacrifice has not gone unnoticed. As a Navy cryptologist, I often deal with numbers, even though I'm not very good at math. Just good enough. Numbers are tangible. They represent something that often give meaning to something we might otherwise overlook. I'd like to share some numbers with you tonight. The number 1, Richard B. Fitzgibbon of North Weymouth, Massachusetts, the first casualty of the Vietnam War. 16, the age of Paul J. Raber, the youngest casualty during the Vietnam War. 19, the number of years that the Vietnam War lasted. 22, the average age of the enlisted soldier that served during the war, which, by the way, is 2 years younger than World War II. 23, the average age of those killed during the war. 27, the percentage of women who served in Vietnam who experienced PTSD at some point during their life. 30, the percentage of men who served in Vietnam who have experienced PTSD at some point during their life. 62, the age of Kenna Taylor, the oldest service member to be killed during the war. 87, percentage of Americans who hold Vietnam veterans in high esteem, based on a poll taken in the 90s. I think it's fair to say that that number has probably risen. 1,641, or 42 as I heard earlier, the number of Americans unaccounted for or missing in action from the Vietnam War. 11,465, the number of service members under the age of 20 who were killed in action during the Vietnam War. 58,272, the number of names listed on the Vietnam Memorial. And 2.7 million, the approximate number of men and women who served during the war. These are just a few of the numbers that represent the Vietnam War, but they allow us to put the sacrifice of these veterans into perspective. When I was giving this speech this evening with my public affairs officer, she asked me if I could find a way to incorporate the namesake of our ship into my speech. I consider Abraham Lincoln to be a personal hero, so much so that I named my youngest son Lincoln. Sorry, I gotta get myself a second. Of President Lincoln's speeches, I consider the Gettysburg Address to be his greatest. Given on November 19, 1863, Lincoln used 272 words to summarize the sacrifice of the soldiers who fought at Gettysburg, with an eye to the future of an ongoing conflict that we now know today as the Civil War. In his honor, I have used 272 words to construct what I affectionately refer to as the Vietnam Address. I will now share this with you. 219 years ago, our nation became engaged in a great war brought forth upon the continent of Asia at a place called Vietnam. This war was fought by a brave generation dedicated to the freedom, justice, and the notion that we should all live free. We are gathered here today to determine whether our nation, which has overcome so many challenges, can properly honor these brave service members. We are met here today on a field of honor dedicated to the men and women who have sacrificed much for the good of our country. Though this field does not serve as the final resting place for those who gave their lives, it does serve to honor the dedication and sacrifice they so selflessly gave. We cannot fully understand what they endured, what they sacrificed, what they gave, so we could live free. The world will neither note nor long remember what I say here today, but we can resolve to never forget what they did for us. It is our responsibility of the living to ensure the legacy of our veterans is furthered as a lasting testament to the struggles they so long withstood. We are now left with the great task remaining before us, the task of taking up the mantle of freedom in recognition of their sacrifice for which so many gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that their sacrifices were not in vain, that this nation, under God, shall long endure, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Sometimes the best speech is short ones, so I'm going to get to the closing. In closing, I want to say thank you for being here tonight. It has been a pleasure to address you this evening, and I am truly your obedient servant. I will continue to serve my country faithfully as the generations before me did. To our brothers and sisters in arms that made the ultimate sacrifice, we will never forget. To our MIAs and POWs, we will never stop looking, To our veterans and currently serving members, I say thank you. And to the Vietnam veterans throughout the world, I salute you. And I say welcome home. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Gail. And thank you, Bill Peterson, Director of the Rockford Wind Ensemble.